Welcome to Doc's Daily Dose for Dads, prescribed by Dr. Harrison. I've mentioned E40 before on this show because my youngest Adris loves E40, Connected and Respected, right? Newest CD that dropped would be legit. Now, the reason I mention that is because there is a song called Blame It in there. And it's talking about blame it on the OGs. He's basically saying what's messed up with some of the younger generation and things that are different is because the grown folk didn't teach them. They abandoned them, left them out, didn't show them the game, right? And he has a specific line in there that says, it's sad. Ain't no uncles around no more. An uncle is like a second dad. And things couldn't be truer. Now, I'm not talking about it being my brother, my son, actual physical uncle relationship. If you don't know, in the black community, we like to have play cousins and play uncles. And they're basically family friends who are super duper close, who we consider family. So we call them uncles, we call them cousins. And that's what it needs to be about. It's, again, this theme of it takes a village, right? Here's 3 examples of how this thing has played itself out in terms of uncles in the last 2 days or 48 hours. I don't even think it was that, less than 24 hours. So yesterday, one of my closest friends, Marshall, came over, and for my oldest birthday, he didn't buy him a gift. What he did was he picked him up, he took him out, they went to his favorite restaurant, my son's favorite restaurant. They sat down, they ate, he talked to him, and he didn't talk to him just about nothing. He actually talked to him about things that are going on. My buddy, he's an older brother. He's the eldest. And he knew that he could relate to my son being the eldest, right? So he talked to him about that. He talked to him about, how things are going and just sharing different ideas and different things and kind of seeing where my son's head my son's head is at. And I trust him enough to do that with my son, right? I trust that he's going to take care of my son and share with him great information. And even if it's information that I don't necessarily agree with, I trust that he wouldn't step over the bounds of something like that, right? Then I turn around and I ask for help from an older gentleman today who I went and sat down and had lunch with, and we talked about financial literacy. And this was someone who's the dad of a kid that I coach. So I do this for his son. I'm the uncle, the second dad, right? I sit there and help his son with stuff. I went out and reached to him as an older man and said, hey, I got some questions. I'm smart enough to know what I don't know. So I want to ask you because I've seen you do some great things. And he was talking to me too about how, yes, you can, family's a priority. And it's great that, my son went with one of my best friends, Marshall, and they talked about real stuff, but also just hanging out and being around. And after we talked about the financial literacy stuff, we just hung out for 2 hours. And then what happened when I came home? I got a phone call from a former football player. Hey, coach, I wanted to reach out to you and ask you some questions about podcasts. Then it became a conversation about philosophy. Then he had specific questions like, what do you think about the concept of fear or living your life by fear? And we just started sharing. At that moment, I was the uncle who was like the second dad, a la E40, right? So understand that as a man, as a father, not only is your responsibility to your child, but to any other younger male out there who's looking for any kind of guidance from you. The football team that I coach on, Coach Smoke, really good friend of mine. I know that his oldest son is coming to play football with us. And I understand what it could be like trying to coach your son and how, that could be high tensions and it could spill over into the household. And he's very aware of that too. So he already knows, and I know that I'm going to be a go-to during football season for his son to be able to calm some tensions, to be able to, so that his son can separate dad and coach and not have to have those things, mixed together so that they're not, they don't cross over and there's no conflict of interest there in terms of, am I listening to my dad now or am I listening to my coach? When I go home and it's supposed to be a safe environment, am I just going to deal with a bunch of coaching stuff? Nah, when I'm upset, I can't go talk to my dad because he's the head coach. You can come talk to Coach Harrison though, right? Uncle is like a second dad. right? And Coach Smokes knows that that's how I approach for his kids. And guess what? The man does the same thing for my children. Anytime I tell him about something, I had the issue with my son at school that I mentioned on here. You know who the first person to ride for me was? Coach Smoke. Uncle is like a second dad. That's what it's all about. So I'm going to issue a challenge to any man out there. Doesn't matter if you are 25 or 75, whether you have kids or you don't, but especially if you have kids. I want to give you the challenge. Take on the responsibility of being a role model or a go-to voice for a child that's not yours. Now, obviously, you don't want to step on other parents' toes, and you don't want to insert yourself where you're, not wanted. But for example, like my friend Marshall, my friend Coach Smoke, the guy I talked to today about financial literacy, the player who contacted me today about talking life philosophy and podcasts, take on that role. Bring family up outside of your immediate household, right? Especially if you know you're coming from a good place with a lot of heart and a lot of love. You do that. Think about if every man did that, the interconnected web we would have, and how it would all be built on love and trust and honesty and trying to be, get everybody to be the best they possibly could be, and that potential, man, what an outcome that could be. So, like E40 said, it's sad. Ain't no uncles around no more. I see uncle's like a second dad. Though I love E40, let's change that narrative. That's Doc's Daily Dose for Dads. Don't forget to hashtag Doc's Daily Dose for Dads. Hashtag 4D, all social media at rebirthbx. Hit the subscribe button. Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music. Check out the website, rebirthbx.com. I'm off to go see James Taylor tonight in concert. If you don't know who he is, look him up. But otherwise, I'll be back to you guys tomorrow.